the vision that this particular dream had in store for us. I've got Dr.Susan Koech, the Principal Secretary, Ministry of East African Community and Northern Corridor Development. Dr. Koech, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Samuel.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Karibu sana, and maybe we can start by you telling us how you're settling into the ministry so far.
Okay. Thank you so much once again, and I'm glad to be here this morning. This is my second month into government. I'm a career banger, and I've settled in pretty well. It's been, of course, some learning experience for me, a whole new world of experience from private sector to government, and I'm glad I was given this opportunity by the head of state to serve in this capacity.
Right.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to serve.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to serve, Dr. Koech, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best in both your present and future endeavors. But briefly, before we even get to the nitty-gritties, what is the East African community all about?
The East African community, of course, as you know, is a regional bloc of currently 6 member states. Initially, it came into being in the year 2000, and the initial partner states that were there was Kenya, Uganda, and of course Tanzania. And then 2007, we had Burundi and Rwanda joining in, and lately, 2016, we also have the Republic of South Sudan. So it's a regional bloc of 6 member states with key focus areas being, of course, the economic activities, the social activities, and more importantly, looking at the cultural bit, because most of the people of East African are connected culturally. Across our borders, you will realize that we have people from the same tribes. If you go to probably Kenya, Uganda, we are all connected culturally, and it's something that we really are for it, and it brings us together as a people. Yes.
What is the objective of this particular regional bloc?
Mostly, the objective, of course, is about integration. And if you look at it, the way it is structured, it's structured in 4 pillars. The first pillar, of course, is the customs union. And and that was the first pillar that came into being. And when you look at the customs union, it's more of looking at free trade among the partner states. Again, it looks at, when you talk about trade, about the industries that are there, how are they protected? And mostly they are protected probably through the common external tariff. The common external tariff has been there to be able to protect the industries. And probably just to expand on the common external tariff is that all imports to the region, to East African community, are supposed to be applied the same tariff. And we are currently running with a 3-band tariff, which is, of course, 0 for raw materials, 15% for intermediate, and 25% for finished good. And in order for us to continue to probably spur industrialization within the partner states, we are currently working on reviewing the common external tariffs. It's a review that we expect all the partner states to have done it by 31st of May this year. This year, and to be in place, the new common external tariff is projected to be in place by 30th of June 2018. And so through the new probably common external tariffs, we should be able to focus on growing the intertrade between the partner states, which we have noted that over time it has, of course, gone down. Intertrade has gone down, and basically it could be because of the kind of imports that we are getting in, probably from Asia, probably from the specific countries, China and India. And through this, we should be able to then protect the local industries, and so increase the intertrade, and more importantly, that will lead, of course, to job creations.
Yeah. And talking of the common external tariff, Dr. Koech, I remember in Feb this year, the president and the president of Kenya and the president of Uganda were in Busia in a bid to open up borders for free movement of goods and services. And therein, both presidents reiterated that it is important, if this bloc is to compete with other giants, we've got to make this bloc giant enough to compete within the global market. And now here comes the common external tariff, isn't it? To what extent will it facilitate this particular agenda? To what benefit will it be to East African community member states and residents or citizens?
Okay, now, just to first, the issue of the one-stop border post,
yes,
which was launched, like the Busia one-stop border post having been launched in February 2018.
Yes.
It has actually eased trade, because right now it means that when you are moving in from probably Kenya to Uganda, you don't need to go to, you don't have to stop in first the Kenyan side and then the Ugandan side. Yeah. You're able to actually be facilitated in one-stop place. And through this, we've seen a lot of efficiency in movement of people. We've seen people being able to be cleared fast enough. And more importantly is out of this, and this was actually a directive by our president, that all the citizens of the East African community, they need not to have visas to come to Kenya. They just need to have their ID. So today, and today even for a Kenyan, just with your ID, you can be able to go to Uganda, you can be able to go to Rwanda. You do not need to have a passport for you to be able to be facilitated in the other side. And we're looking at the one-stop border post as a major milestone. And we've been able to do this with a number of development partners. I'll give you the example, like for Busia, for instance. It was able to take off well because of support from TIMEA, that is Trademark East African. And then we have the Namanga one-stop border post, which we also got a lot of support from GIZ. So we're working with development partners to ensure that all the border posts are actually under the OSPP. We're also going to ensure probably in this next financial year that the Isibania Sirare border post is also operational, because it is movement for people, it is movements for goods, and it's one of the greatest milestones we will say is as a result of integration. Yeah.
The Customs Union Protocol became fully operational in 2010, right?
Yes.
How has the growth been in facilitating integration within East Africa? And maybe for purposes even of our viewers, what does this Customs Union Protocol entail? What is it all about?
Okay. One of the main milestones under the Customs Union, I'll say, is the single customs territory. Under the single customs territory, we are able to have, of course, the customs officials. For instance, today we have customs officials from all the partner states in Mombasa. And through this, we've seen reduction in the number of days that you can move cargo, for instance, from Mombasa to Rwanda. Before the single customs territory, we were taking 21 days for goods to move from the port of Mombasa to Kikali. Currently, we are talking about 6 days. Again, from Mombasa to Kampala, it used to take 18 days. Today, it's 4 days. The reason is because of the single custom territory and because of removal of some non-tariff barriers, quite a number of non-tariff barriers, which manifests itself in terms of way bridges, roadblocks, and so these have been eliminated. And if you can be able to just look at the reduction on the number of days, if it is quantified, then you will see a huge savings. You will see that we've been able to really facilitate trade. More importantly, again, we should be able to look at the East African community for Kenya as it's the major market for our goods. Today, we export 25% of our total exports within Kenya to the East African community. Yes. And it's the only market that Kenya has a surplus, positive balance of trade. Because if for instance, I give you the figures for 2016, 2016, we exported 125 billion against imports of 31 billion. So you can see it's huge balance of trade for Kenya, and it's a market we should be able to really continue taking advantage of. And as a ministry, as we will be an enabler of the Big Four agenda through ensuring that, yes, our manufacturers are able to get market access for their goods. Yes.
Moving forward, the Monetary Union Protocol that was signed in November 2013 and has been ratified by all member states, I believe, isn't it? Moving forward, what steps are being made to realize proper integration through the Monetary Union Protocol?
Okay, thank you. The Monetary Union, of course, that's the third pillar.
Yes.
After the Customs Union and then the Common Market Protocol. And on the Monetary Union, there is a clear roadmap. And the roadmap is that by 2024, we should be able to have one single currency, that we should be able to have the East African Central Bank in place. And in order for us to be able to attain that dream, there are a number of course, frameworks that are being put in place. Number one is, for this year, the East African Monetary Institute is supposed to be in place this year to be able to, of course, set the framework to ensure that all aspects are looked into. And then we'll also have the East African Statistic Bureau. And the benefit, of course, of this, attaining this dream of the monetary union is, one, we will not be having the issue of exchange losses, probably, that come about because of different currencies. Again, we will be able to have a one strong currency. And mine today is to, of course, look at it in terms of the framework that is going to be set, that will be in place probably this year as per the Council of Ministers Directive, and that because the bill has already been passed by IALA, then we should see things moving on that direction.
Yeah. But there is a criteria that needs to be met by all member states, isn't it?
Yes.
What does this criteria entail? What are some of the requirements?
Basically, that's what I'm saying. There are institutions that have been set to look onto the specifics, because this will be done by a team of experts. Yes.
And the journey to integration so far, because that's the caption on our screen this morning, how would you describe it, Dr. Koech? Are we on the right track so far?
I must say it's actually an exciting journey. A number of things have been done. A number of achievements have been recorded. Probably most Kenyans need to just understand that one of the things that has been attained is, the free movement of people within the East African borders, that you can move to, as I said earlier, to Uganda, to Rwanda, just with your ID. We also have this one visa tourists, where tourists coming into Kenya today, they just need one visa and they can still use the same visa to Uganda and probably to Rwanda. Again, we're saying that through the integration process, I'll give an example of Lake Basin Commission. Lake Basin Commission is one of the institutions for East African community. And through Lake Basin Commission, we've had a number of projects that we've been able to undertake that are benefiting many Kenyans. We have a number of projects today, like for instance, we have Keroka Water Supply Project, we have Homa Bay Sanitation Project, we also have a project in Bomet, Kericho, Kisumu, through the East African community. This is through development partners coming to us and believing in us and saying, because of the community, we are able to support you so that you can undertake specific projects which may either be transboundary projects or projects in one partner state, because the projects I've just mentioned are in Kenya, but we also have some other transboundary projects which probably could be in across the Lake Basin Commission. And it's also exciting for us as Kenyans to note that through integration, we have had access to the market for our goods, and that is very, very important. Yes.
There is a committee that is looking into political federation amongst East Africa Community member states. What can you tell us has been the progress of negotiations and steps taken by this community to realize political federation within EAC?
Okay, thank you. The summit, which is of course the highest organ of the community, directed that we call for a political confederation. And so as it is right now, a team of experts from all the partner states, a team of actually constitutional experts are coming together to be able to draft and see which, of course, and advise the way forward on the political confederation journey. And as it is right now, we are in the process of ensuring that team come together and are able to progress.
What is because the issue of political federation, Dr. Koech, is one that, well, has raised many questions, isn't it? And courtesy even of history, because this is not the first time we're making an attempt to the East Africa community realization of the same. Are we looking at, I know one, it's supposed to support and boost political goodwill for this regional bloc to flourish. But other than the goodwill, what other areas of consideration, what other areas of preference are being given, priority by this summit?
I think just to advise is currently the East African community as it is, it's people-driven. And when you have a people-driven process, it calls for wide consultations. And in addition to calling for wide consultation, Samuel, it also means that the people will be able to own the process. And so every step that is done and they are consulted about it and they are able to own it, it becomes easy for any organ to be able to, bring in that kind of agenda. And given our cultural interconnections as the people of East African community, I'm looking at it as it will be able to really work as it is more of people-driven. Yeah.
Okay. And before I move to a question that I can see is coming in, let me just ask you one question off the cuff, very briefly. Interstate relations within the bloc have been tested, rightfully so, because this is a journey and a process, and it must undergo a test. For example, when you look at Kenya and Tanzania, that is one area that really needs to be ironed out. What's your take on this particular issue? How is the status quo so far?
Now, I want to start by saying that when you look at Tanzania, is actually the second largest market for our goods. And we share a border of 765 kilometers. So this is, of course, one of the longest borders that we share with any other state. And as it is, if there are any probably issues, which of course in the process of integration there will be, they've been handled before, and they've been handled probably at even a high level, at the presidential level. And I'm confident that going forward, the issues that could have been there will be resolved.
Okay, so all is well.
Very well. It's not going to affect integration process in any way. We are focused, and that is why the journey towards political confederation is ongoing.
Okay. Judy would like to know what the key achievements are. What are the key achievements registered in the area of infrastructure within the East Africa community?
Thank you. We've been able to undertake a number of infrastructural projects. One of them is the Arusha Namanga Adhirifa project. That is one of the key projects for the community. And I'm sure people using that stretch of road, they appreciate what has been able to happen. And again, You go to Malindi, Lunga, Bakamoyo Road, the construction is in progress. And we have quite a number of other projects which are oncoming. And as I said earlier, we have a number of projects that we've done under Lake Basin Commission, the Keroka Water Sanitation Project, the Isibania Water Project, and also we have a water project in Bomet that is complete. And actually that the people of Bomet today are using it. Yes.
Right. So, and other than infrastructure in terms of roads, are there any other achievements?
Yes. One of the other achievements, of course, will be the one-stop border post, which I said is one of the greatest achievements under the integration process. The other achievement, of course, will be of the projects like the Homa Bay sewerage plant. It will also be aspects of, which we are undertaking with other development partners, for instance, on climate change along the Lake Basin Commission. The issue of Lake Victoria, the issue of ensuring that Lake Victoria, as the one resource that is co-shared by Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, is able to be, of course, taken care of, that there is issues of, let's say, sand mining is not allowed in the lake, just to protect that specific resource. And I think, protecting the environment in many other aspects as some of the things that have been done as through the community. Yeah.
As a Kenyan doctor, Koech, why should I be excited by the East Africa community? What opportunities does it present me as a Kenyan?
Now, East African community presents for us great opportunities for Kenyans. One, when you talk about even the issue of employment, we are able to have, people getting on to job opportunities in Rwanda, in Uganda. They can be able to move to those countries. And so we are able to, there's exchange of skills. The other aspect, of course, very important for us is how do we facilitate and ensure that the manufacturing sector in Kenya continues to grow. It will only continue to grow when there is market for the goods. And through that specific market, then we are going to create employment. Kenyans are able to do cross-border trade. Through cross-border trade, we are able to have many households to, have an income. And so we should be excited about this. We should be excited about the interconnectivity of our other countries, the cultural interconnectivity we have. We should also be excited by the fact that we are able to continuously engage ourselves and see that we are moving towards the monetary union, and it creates more opportunities for us. Yeah.
Just like any other block, just like any other journey, any other process, you cannot, or we cannot be immune to challenges here and there in the realization of this economic block. So what are some of the major challenges that you faced so far, and how are you handling them?
Okay, I should say one of the challenges, of course, will be the fact that as we do all these things, we have, each country, of course, has to protect its sovereignty. And in the process, probably, that's when we end up having a few challenges on maybe not being able to allow our goods, for instance, to go to freely to move to another country. And again, one of the other things that we need to appreciate is when we came into the community in 2000, the level of industrialization was different. It was different in that, of course, Kenya was way ahead of the other partner states. But with time, we've realized that the other partner states, Samuel, have been able to also grow their industries. And so, we will keep on looking at it and saying, probably the level of our exports have gone down. But why? The reason it has gone down is probably because the same industries we have, the other partner states have been able to also develop their own industries. Yeah.
You've mentioned a key point, sovereignty. And I remember when the issue of the single currency came up, and also another issue on the identification across member states for all East Africa community members, isn't it? There was that question and concern that it may impound, it may interfere with the sovereignty of individual member states. How have you been able to cure that over time? And also in light of the fact that by 2024, we expect to have a single currency, right? So how does that come up, or how is the issue of individual sovereignty of member states get protected in the course and process of it all?
You know, for us as a community, and everything that's done in the community is done within the boundaries of the treaty. So the treaty is able to actually ensure that the issues of probably sovereignty, the issues of what will happen to other currencies for the other partner states when we go towards one currency. And that's why the issue of institutions which are set to set up the required framework will always be a priority. So I don't see it as a challenge in any way, because the right frameworks are in place. And of course, wider consultations are always done before any decision is made.
For an entrepreneur, be they young or experienced, who's watching this show this morning, what opportunities are there for them? What can they embrace so far as a token that can be presented by the integration journey of the East African community so far?
First, of course, will be the issue of trade. I'll encourage young people, young entrepreneurs, or any entrepreneur out there to take advantage of the market that we have in East Africa community.
What does it offer, this market?
Free trade, that you can be able to, of course, free movement of goods, free movement of people, and that, you know, you're able to access that market without a lot of obstacles. And we also are looking at, other than just the issue of free movement of goods and people, we also need to look at how do we ensure Kenyans who are probably in the other partner states are able to access affordable health care, because health is a priority.
Yes.
It's one of the big four agenda items. So we're working with the other partner states to ensure that probably today with an NHIF card, I should be able to go to an hospital an accredited hospital in Kampala and access medical care. So those are some of the things that we are working on as a ministry, because our ministry is charged, of course, with the policies of EAC and, of course, coordinating. We coordinate activities with the other ministries. Yes.
I know pundits have argued that we may not be ready. There are those that have argued that we may not be ready for this. It has been tried before. It didn't work. We haven't really prepared ourselves. I mean, to some extent, they would argue that we're not in a position to deal with our own issues internally effectively. So how again do we participate into the regional bloc matters? So what's your take? What's your message to those pundits this morning?
The goodwill is there. And I think the most important thing is when you have the goodwill from the highest level of the summit. And the other thing is this is a people-centered community. And so with those two items, and wider consultations, which should always be done before effecting any law, before effecting any change, and again, setting the right frameworks, we should be able to attain the dream of, especially when it comes to the monetary union for 2024 single currency.
Let's talk about EALA a bit. And you said that it's people-driven. This entire process is people-driven. And that is why we sponsor, is it 9 members per member state to the EALA? In the process of making legislation that will affect the citizens of the East African community, to what level do they attract public participation? And how is that encompassed and realized amongst member states?
EALA, as you said, like for Kenya, we have 9 members in EALA, and of course, the cabinet secretary and chief administrative secretary are ex-officio members of EALA. And through IALA, they do a lot of stakeholder engagements. The IALA members of parliament today keep on having specific stakeholder engagements across the country. And through the stakeholder engagements, they're able to come up with bills, personal bills in IALA that are, of course, geared towards ensuring that the needs and the aspirations of Kenyans are taken care of. So with the public participation, the issue of consultation, the issue of stakeholder engagement is a way of ensuring our people are part of the process.
What is the role, what is the place of culture in this integration journey?
We have a number of programs that we do. One of them is sports. You know, throughout the partner states, we have the secondary schools coming together, you know, and you know, if we get it right from the youth so that they are able to really integrate and they're able to appreciate the journey, then I look at it as of course, an initial way for us to be able to deepen integration. Secondly, when you look at, even for EAC, as it is today, we have a unifying factor. One of the unifying factor is the EAC anthem. And you can actually see that in most public functions after the our anthem, our national anthem, we also sing the EAC anthem. So it's one of those unifying factors for us.
You said that if we're able to get it right from the youth level, then it will become easier in the realization of the dream and purpose of this regional bloc. So what steps are being taken to ensure that the youth are not left behind? What role, what place do they take in this integration journey?
We involve the youth in a number of activities, like even the anthem, as I talked about. It was actually the youth from all the partner states who came together and were able to come up with the anthem that we have today. We are looking at looking at probably changing the logo, the emblem for the community, and it's a process that we're also involving the youth from all the partner states.
Earlier on, you talked of stakeholder engagement. So far, how has it been? What has it contributed to this integration journey? And when we talk of stakeholders within EAC, other than member states, who else is a stakeholder?
The main stakeholder, of course, will be the people.
Yes.
And when we talk about the people, as a ministry, for instance, we have structured, and in fact, in the next 1 month, we have structured engagements with the public. And the way we've studied it, we want first to engage the members of the county assemblies. One, because, of course, they are the people who make the laws in the specific counties, and also they represent their people. So to start with, we are having 13 counties. We have structured the engagements, 3 blocks. We're starting with Trans Nzoia, where we're going to have 5 counties coming to Kitale. Then we go to Mombasa, we have 4 counties, and then Kisumu, we will have another 4 counties. And through these engagements with the members of the county assemblies, we expect that we are going to have a common understanding on integration and on the projects that we are running with, and of course, so that they can also be able to set laws that will enable the integration process and not probably end up having non-tariff barriers coming up. We also have a program to engage university students, because we have ambassadors in the universities. And through these ambassadors, we are able to reach to many university students, and so the youth, as I said. And in secondary schools, I talked about games, but again, you look at the issue of us ensuring that they are able to cover, probably working with the specific ministries, they have to cover, at least in their curricula, an item on East African community, which is very critical for them to be able to understand.
Is the bloc in any way into PPPs, private-public partnerships?
Currently, we've been working very, very closely with development partners. I must be able to put that across. And we have huge support from development partners. We have been able to work with, as I said earlier, a number of them, GIZ, TIMEA, World Bank, UNEP, and we have huge programs that we are doing with them. In terms of public-private partnerships, as an enabler, we are able to also focus on that area to be able to ensure more businesses are able to benefit from integration. Because I'll give an example. Look at the banks in Kenya today, KCB, Equity, and COP. They have branches in all, in most of the partner states within East Africa community. And this has been possible because of the enabling environment that has been brought about because of integration.
I remember back in 2016 when the Republic of South Sudan was being welcomed into the Bloc. Again, it sparked a lot of discussion. Key among them, what are member states bringing to the table? Reconciliation of interest at the end of the day, which is literally at the core of any interstate relations, right? So when it comes to reconciliation of state interest within the Bloc, tricky balancing affair, but how is the ministry handling it so far?
As a ministry, for us, we're looking at, of course, first and foremost, you have to look at the strategic interests for Kenya in any activity that you're doing. It's about our national interest. But Kenya plays a very key role within the region. And even in South Sudan, for instance, that's one of our markets. Most of the private companies that work in South Sudan are Kenyan companies. And so it's for our own interest for us to ensure that this integration actually, that they are also integrated in the regional bloc, because it means more opportunities for us.
The Bloc has seen various member states go through a bit of political instability, Burundi being a case in point. We can also mention Uganda a bit, and of course the situation in South Sudan. To what extent has this affected the integration journey, if at all it has?
As it is, of course there are issues that are handled at national level, and there are issues, of course, that are probably, that could have been handled by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs,
yes, for
them to be able to respond to that one. For me, I'll focus on East African community and the integration, and I will say that there's been no so much impact to the integration process. And if there are probably any other issues outside that, they are better off handled at Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
At that level.
Yeah.
What's your personal view of the future of EAC, Dr. Koech?
I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that the journey that was started is going to be attained. I'm optimistic that all the pillars will be progressed within the set timelines. I'm excited about the journey. I'm excited about the opportunities that we have been able to have. I'm excited about the fact that it is a people-driven integration progress. Yeah. And I'm seeing much more for us as a country, much more in terms of opportunities, much more in terms of us shaping the way the regional bloc should be, because of, you know, the kind of the level where we are as a country, the level in terms of the people resources we have in our country, the level of industrialization in our country. It gives us a better opportunity, because we can be able to influence policy at the regional level in a better way, and ensure that we move together with all the partner states.
With all the partner states. This discussion largely has focused on opportunities. But when you look largely on a SWOT analysis, their strengths too, their weaknesses, and their threats. How do we caution ourselves from the threats, for example?
Just to be alive to the threats that are there, to be alive to the fact that where we were in the beginning is not where we are all as partner states. to be aware that we have to change tacts along the way, that we have to look internally and see what is it that we can do differently. How do we ensure that we remain, our goods remain competitive within the market? If probably the other partner states have come up with their industries, how do we ensure that probably the Kenyan manufacturers are able to produce more better goods? How do we also handle the issue of imports from China and India that are today probably taking our space within the regional bloc? So we should be able to really internally look at it and look at where we've been and look at the journey, because we have, as I said, opportunities, and at the same time we have goodwill from the leadership of this country.
What role is technology and innovation playing in the journey towards integration?
We have been able to embrace technology. I must say that, like today, if you dial star 483 star 5 hash, you can be able to get access to market. You can be able to look at the market accessibility, where you can be able to get your goods, the pricing, the exchange rate, you know, a number of things. We're looking at, as a ministry, to be able to embrace technology more, because as I said, we want to reach more to the youth. So we're working on strategies that will ensure that we really are more of to technology in order for us to reach our current target market. Yeah.
What was that dial number you said again? Star?
It should be star 483 star 5 hash.
Star 483
Yeah.
star 5 hash.
Yeah.
That number should give you access to information in relation to opportunities.
Yes.
And
the market opportunities.
the market opportunities
Yeah.
that are currently there.
Yeah.
Emerging trends. We're living in a fast world. We're trying to integrate into a global village, and and in a fast manner too. How is this presenting itself within the larger bloc so far?
Of course, one of the things, of course, will be on technology. One of the other things will be on the issues of imports from the other Asia, probably. And within the regional bloc, again, we look at more, more other industries coming up. As a bloc, we're working on ensuring we actually remain competitive. And we also are looking at how do we partner more with other regional blocs. For instance, COMESA and SADC, if we come together with them, it's accessing, those will be 26 countries, and we'll be accessing a larger market. You look at the Continental Free Trade Area coming, which was just signed early this year. Again, that brings us opportunity, larger opportunities. And as a bloc, if we are able to move together towards that direction, it will be able to spur industrialization.
There's an article I came across in one of the weekly publications within the East Africa region, and it's called the East African. And I'd like to give you an opportunity to respond to this. And that there's some headline positions that have been taken by member states on various issues affecting the region, which has watered down the provisions of the treaty. And I'm looking at the EAC treaty, which provides for peaceful settlement of disputes. This paper rather went ahead and elaborated Chapter 6 of the treaty. We may not go into the specifics of Chapter 6 of the EAC treaty, but in terms of headline positions taken by member states, trade disputes, mistrust among member states, which threaten to scuttle efforts to integrate EAC, what would be your reaction to that?
Probably just for the purpose of probably the viewers to know, Article 6, it talks about mutual trust, political will and sovereign equality. It also talks about peaceful coexistence and good orderliness and peaceful settlement of disputes. And, you know, we have the specific organs within set out by the treaty. And these specific organs will be able to resolve issues when they come up. And my take is, and that is actually the position, we've not had issues that have not been completely not resolved because of the way the treaty is well structured, the community is well structured. Some of the things coming up out, of course, will be perception and views, which we respect people's views. But the position we have today is whatever issues have been there as a ministry, and of course as a government, and as partner states, they've always been resolved.
Always been resolved. And they went ahead and brought up another issue on regional integration. And on this, and I quote, they say a key factor that has constrained many African countries, including Kenya, from growing into a global economy is the continent's small markets, which is a reality. We accept that is the truth. And this generally does not permit what is called realization of economies of scale. So to what extent does this bloc facilitate the realization of economies of scale in a bid or an effort to promote a bloc or come up with a bloc that will compete effectively within the global market?
I think we need to first take cognizance of the fact that many regional blocs or many regions in the world that have been able to trade within themselves, first and foremost, have been able to grow more. And for us as East African community, we still have an opportunity to spur our industrialization, to spur our GDPs, because today the intra-trade is still at a low level.
Yes.
We have not yet reached that level where we can say we are like Europe, where intra-trade probably is at almost 80%. If we can be able to protect the markets we have by not allowing imports on goods that we can still produce locally within the community, then we should be able to attain the economies of scales that we're talking about, and we should also be able to ensure that our GDPs are at higher levels than they are today.
Higher levels than they are at today. We're just about to bring this discussion to a close, but not before I give you an opportunity maybe to have a final word. What is that message you would like to leave Kenyans with in as far as the integration journey of EAC is concerned?
To Kenyans out there, I want to really urge them that they take advantage of the East African community, the market that we have out there, that we all embrace integration, that we all need to be able to understand that there is free movement of goods and people, that we should be able to have market for our goods, that we can be able to also have our, children to school across the East African community partner states, and that more importantly, there are also skills that are being looked for within the other partner states that probably, because of our level of, the education level for Kenya is slightly higher, we can be able to explore that and take up the opportunities there.
Speaking of which, job opportunities, do we have a window for skills transfer within the East Africa region?
We do have, we will be actually working very closely with the relevant ministry. But today I will tell you, there are many Kenyans who are working within the East African community. We even have teachers probably working in across the other partner states. So there are opportunities which are there. It's only for us to be on the lookout as we embrace integration.
Well, they say if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk with people or walk with people, and that will get you far in life. My name is Samuel Njoroge, Dr. Susan Koech, the Principal Secretary, Ministry of East African Community and the Northern Corridor Development. Thank you for coming to the show. I know today we've centered a lot on matters related to the East African community and integration. I would love to have you back to discuss the Northern Corridor Development.
Okay.
Yes, and touch on a few issues therein, which Some are good, others all will be well in due time. But thank you for coming.
Thank you, Samuel, and thank you for having me this morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Good Morning Kenya this Wednesday. It's always a pleasure kickstarting your morning each and every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, together with my colleagues Safina Chieng and Brenda Zeda Radido. We are taking a bow for now. Today, we do hope that you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. God bless you abundantly. Tomorrow on Entertainment Thursday, you do not want to miss the show. Again, I will not give out too much on what you can expect. Kindly hit me up on my social media platforms and you'll be able to get what we have prepared for you tomorrow as far as Entertainment Thursday is concerned. Sami One on Twitter, Samuel Njoroge on Facebook at KBC Channel 1 on Twitter too. Kindly hit up those social media platforms in the course of the day and you'll be able to find out who exactly will be gracing Entertainment Thursday this week. Until then, God bless you all abundantly. Enjoy your day and see you tomorrow.